Hello everybody and welcome to the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series Season 4 Round 11 here at Okayama with slightly dimmed lighting by the looks of it. My name is Jack Oliphant and I'm joined alongside me as ever in the virtual commentary box by Ed May. Ed, how the devil are you?
I'm doing great, thank you very much, Jack, and I'm looking forward to be finally back in the comms box for the UK&I Ireland Radical Race Series, the 11th round here at Okayama. It's been a while, Jack, but I think there have been some developments in the championship since I was last here, and I'm sure you've got all that information to give us now.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? And as I load up, there we go, it has loaded up now. Yeah, after round 10 last time, which was the Twin Ring Motegi Grand Prix circuit, of course. We are still in the land of the rising sun here at Okayama. We've stayed in Japan for the extra week to enjoy the site. But Simon Edwards now has 369 points. Now, there are drop rounds to be taken into account, X, Y, Z. But realistically, 369 points for Simon Edwards. The next best driver is Mike Busson, 244. So anybody out there who's better at maths than me will probably realise that that's about 130 points. Maybe 135 points difference. So I don't think any amount of drop rounds can really stop Simon Edwards being champion. Paul Crabb, at the moment, after attending 9 out of the 10 rounds, he is sat in 3rd position in the championship, 239 points, so not that far behind Mike Busson. And I can tell you now, a little bit of a spoiler, that Paul Crabb is going quickly tonight here in practice. Martin Booker is in 4th and Dominic Lang-Webb in the top 5. One of the quickest drivers that we've seen when he's managed to turn up has been John Mccutchenson. But unlike Simon Edwards and Mike Busson, who have both attended all 10 rounds so far, John Mccutchenson has only attended 6. He is here tonight. This will be his 7th. He has a habit, though, of when he turns up, he tends to win. So John Mccutchenson, keep an eye out for him. And even though he's only attended 6 rounds, that's 3 less than Paul Crabb, Martin Booker, Dominic Lang-Webb. He's only 2 points behind 4th place. He's sat in 6th. So John can really pull back some points, and after some drop rounds, maybe he'll even hold on to that top 5 positioning. Paul LeMay is in top 7 as Graham Brown, Richard Brown, and Paul Clark round out the top 10. You've got a fair few other drivers, but I'll let you head over to the Radical Race Series UK and Ireland website, designed by Martina Ward, I believe, to really get the lowdown on what's cracking there. And just before we go off the website as well, you can also see the full schedule, and you can actually sign up to next season as well. So if you want to get involved in the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series, then by all means head over to their website. But the Nürburgring Nordschleife, Ed, is where we're off to next week for the finale. I don't know if there's an extra long race, or sometimes Sim Series like to do that, don't they, for the Nordschleife, but it's always a feature race there, and it tends to be the finale we head over to the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it is usually the final round of any championship, or most championships on iRacing, where they go to the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and that's going to be a very exciting round. Is it just the Nordschleife, or is it also with the GP loop attached to it? I'm not entirely sure.
The website doesn't specify that, unfortunately. It just says the Nordschleife. So yeah, we won't know. It might cut off the GP loop, which would be a shame because I really enjoy the GP loop.
It's a definite sort of, it's a bit chalk and cheese, isn't it? You've got one section of the circuit which is all about the flowing section, all throughout sort of navigating the Nordschleife to the best of your ability, but then you've also got the GP loop, which is a lot more of a conventional style of race circuit, and obviously attack the corners a little bit more through that section than you can on the Nordschleife, or at least getting away with attacking the corners, I think.
Yeah,
is the right word to use.
I quite like the GP loop because it obviously offers up a little bit of an ease, a little bit of a relief, I'd say, from the Nordschleife, and it allows people. There's quite a few overtaking manoeuvres on the GP loop as well, probably more than there are on the Nordschleife. So, as far as racing goes and spectating, I quite like a late lunge into T1 and all those sort of sections of the track. So, yeah, we'll see though, because obviously we have no idea now. But right now, we're actually at Okayama, a circuit that we've both commented on it plenty.
Yeah, plenty of action here in the cards at Okayama. And I'm just seeing what's going on at the moment as we are into practice. There's about a minute and a half remaining for the drivers to get accustomed to the circuit here. And to be fair, what the circuit is at Okayama, plenty of elevation change as well. You've got, coming up now, they're plunging down the hill and then into a quick right, left, sort of a hairpin right, and then you don't have much time to think before you immediately dive left. So here they go into it's like hairpin, probably one of the overtaking opportunities on this lap, and through the left-hander, which really does dive down. It's so difficult to get right because you're working against gravity, slowing the car down onto the apex, and it can lure you in to carry that little bit too much speed, and the gravel trap isn't far away on the exit. And then another spot where drivers can try and overtake, but hopefully it's cleaner than that as Jamie Bird gets a tap up the rear from Ray Peasley, who just left his nose on the inside a little bit. But it's a good thing that this is practice, doesn't hamper them in the race. They get a fresh car for qualifying, fresh car for the race, so all of this doesn't count for much apart from, well, as the name suggests, practice.
Yeah, which is, as you said, is rather fortunate, really, that they do get a nice new car, and I wish it was the same way in real life, to be honest. It would save an awful lot of money and an awful lot of hassle. What is also a difference in the UK&I Radical Race Series, Sim Series, compared to real life as well, is the way that qualifying is performed as well, Ed. And we quite often speak about this, but we're going to see it in about 5 seconds' time, so I thought I might as well start the conversation early. Qualifying is on your own, so you have no other cars on track. As you know, it's a little bit of a different mindset as Ray Peasley fires his car and pretty much brings up an example of what we're talking about, how he'll get a lovely new car, and he has that opportunity to do that sort of crash at the end of practice. But as we go into qualifying, you are on your own, and you only get 3 laps in the 10 minutes as well.
Yeah, not a lot of time to obviously come to terms with how quickly you can get around this circuit, how fast you can navigate. Of course, they are by themselves, so like you mentioned, doesn't mean that they can get held up. It's just them and the track. But sometimes that can put some pressure on you, knowing that, especially on the broadcast, the spotlight is going to be firmly on you as we watch Simon Edwards starting his out lap. And of course, let's not forget, Jack, that the tyres are a big factor here. The first laps aren't necessarily going to be quicker, but it's good to get bankers in before going all out for the third and final attempt when your tyres are in that sweet spot.
Yeah, you need to get those bankers in. You don't want to be going into your last flying lap knowing that it's all on the line. You haven't done anything to help secure yourself a place or anything like that. So very important for these drivers to make sure that they're sort of getting into the rhythm as soon as possible. But it is quite an odd sort of sensation. You're right, it does add the pressure on, in my opinion. I remember when I first jumped on iRacing, I thought I'd broken the software. I thought I'd done something wrong when I first went into a qualifying, and it was only me on the circuit. I thought maybe the server had lagged out or something like that. But so you put your sort of times in, and then you have no idea how everybody else is doing, especially if you don't have the SDK broadcasting software, which obviously we have. So what you're seeing at the bottom of your screen now, where people are putting in green sectors and about to come across the line X, Y, Z, and what will appear on the left-hand side when people put in their fastest times and whatnot, the drivers don't see any of that unless they have the SDK broadcasting software installed, and it costs money, so a lot of people don't bother. They'll only know when they jump into the pits after qualifying, and they'll see other people's times and see maybe where they're put in. Some cars have it on their steering wheel and whatnot at the time that you're putting in, but you might still not know how close you are to the other driver's head, and that can be a curse and a blessing.
I mean, sometimes, that's if they aren't using the iRacing black box. Sometimes what I do is I put it on the second option on the right-hand side, so I can just see exactly what the standings are. And it also does show the time, so sometimes you can realise, I'm miles off the pace, or, there we go, it's a bit more, bit easier. It's also good to have the, when you're in open qualifying, have the third menu open, because then that shows where the other cars are on circuit. If you've got maybe first place in behind, or a car that you're battling for position in behind getting your toe, and you can just ease off of the racing line and lift out, just letting them past and not giving them any more toe than you've already given them, which is also a bit of clever gamesmanship, but we don't see that. It's just pure driving ability that we're going to have to focus on tonight. If they can get through a lap of Okayama quicker than anybody else, just them and the track, like we've mentioned. First times coming through now. And what is Simon Edwards going to set? The benchmark time is actually set by Paul Crabb at 22.6. Very close between Edwards and Crabb at the moment, as Graham Brown goes third fastest. Trying to keep my eyes open as well for all of the other drivers. What can John Mccutchenson manage? Waiting a little while before we can see what that time is. And John Mccutchenson hasn't actually set a lap time yet. So his first flying lap potentially invalidated somewhere. And now we're going to see if he can shoot up the timing orders, because Paul Crabb, he was marginally quicker in every single sector, purple across the board, but only just in certain points.
Yeah, no, we're going to come across the line and pretty much bang on the same point, Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb as well. So we're going to see there both times potentially updated within an instant, which might see that Simon Edwards take pole position, but only for about half a second before Paul Crabb's time loads in. So yeah, looking forward to that one. We've got 11 lap times on the board. I would say we've reasonably got over 20 drivers here today. So a lot of drivers with an invalidated lap time, including obviously the driver we're on board with, John Mccutchenson, as Jamie Thomas puts himself into the top 10. Fair few seconds off Paul Crabb's initial time though. So as John flies down the home straight, he's going to cross the line now. Is it going to be a valid lap time? Yes, it is. Good enough for 5th, which isn't really where we're used to seeing John Mccutchenson. But look at Paul Crabb. He's gone on to, well, he was already on pole position, but only just this time. Both him and Simon Edwards drop into the 21s. Only just, but realistically, half a tenth between them is going to set up a pretty feisty battle between Crabb and Edwards, Ed.
Yeah, it is very, very feisty indeed, as you can see Paul Crabb. So it was so close together. What can Richard Brown do as he comes across the line? Was P11, fresher tyres, better in the window, promotes him up to P7. So good lap that from Richard, who's now going through turn 2. And to be fair, that first sector of Okayama, it feels so good. High speed sweeping corners before plunging down into a deceptively tight hairpin that is crucial to get right before the back straight. Very technical, very demanding, but oh so nice when you hook it up. And we've seen Paul Crabb, has he hooked that lap up together, Jack? Comes through the final couple of corners now. This could be pole position retained for Paul Crabb.
Yeah, he's going to come across the start-finish line. It's a fair old way. He hasn't gone quicker in Sector 2, but he did go slightly quicker in Sector 1. So what has Paul Crabb got underneath the bonnet? It's a purple Sector 3. It's a purple lap time at 21.8. So he extends his gap to Simon Edwards by about a tenth of a second, who, by the way, has already finished his final flying laps. You can see him parked up there. It's not going to be any better, but Mike Busson, hello to you. Only, I mean, that's incredibly close. 3/1000ths of a second, is my maths correct there? Which is absolute madness. And then you see Graham Brown as well. I mean, we're going to have to bring up the interval here, Ed, because that is stunning. Look at that, 0.02 of a second, according to SDK, between Simon Edwards and Busson, and then 100th between Brown and Busson as well. So that top 4 is ridiculously close right now.
2,000 separating Mike Busson from the front row. You can see he blows his engine, probably in a bit of frustration, realizing that he was that close to putting it on the front row and challenging Paul Crabb into turn 1. Dave Kirkman now is about to come across the line. What can he muster? P11 should see him promoted up, but does get promoted up with fresher tyres, better in the window at least. Only into P10. Phil Glover is next across the line. P16. Is he going to promote up one place? Yes, he does, up into 15th. But then Jamie Thomas answers back brilliantly to go P13. And James Child shoots up the order to go 15th fastest on the timing sheets. And I think James started his qualifying a little bit later. I'm not sure if he has any more laps in the tank or not.
No, well, that's the thing, isn't it? As soon as you get into the sort of latter stages, drivers have pretty much finished their laps. They're not allowed to do any more than 3 flying laps, and they will be not counting, basically. It's not like they'll be disqualified. They can carry on rotating. It just won't count for anything. Their lap times won't count towards qualifying. They'll just be putting in some extra practice. Something I do tend to take advantage of if I'm late to a session and I haven't done much practice and you have to jump into qualifying straight away. You get out there and use and abuse all 10 minutes that you can just to try and get some laps on the board. Frustrates the other drivers as Jamie Bird goes from 8th to 7th, demoting Paul Clark. It frustrates a few of the other drivers because obviously they've done their 3 laps and they're waiting around for 4 minutes while you do your extra 2 practice laps. But at the end of the day, you want to be competitive, don't you? You don't want to be flying into turn 1 not knowing what to expect. So, yeah, it's important that these drivers use and abuse all the track time that's available to them. Hopefully, they have been practicing throughout the week, though, and we can have a nice, clean race for these radicals. I do remember last time at Twin Motegi, it was very impressive in terms of the driving standards, in my opinion. James Child is the final driver to come across the line, and it looks like it'll be a P10. But actually, that was James Child's first real flying lap, so he's got one more under the belt.
Yeah, he does. He's got an extra little bit to go. I was wondering if that was the case with James Child when he set his first lap. There seemed to be a little bit more in the tank there, and he definitely has the ability to go that little bit faster on this. His final qualifying lap. Currently in P10. Can he get a little bit higher up the order? We have seen actually the gap between drivers' second laps and their third laps isn't that great. So if James Child makes a mistake here, he'll be staying in P10, just coming through the hairpin now and then plunging down the hill where drivers can make or break their lap time. Margins to gain time, very great, but margins to make mistakes also just as significant. Now into second sort of hairpin chicane. You've got one to the left and then another one quick to the right. Make sure to bounce the foot on the throttle nicely. And then careful through the second to last corner where you have to really swing it through and slow down just a touch more for the final bend. Power nicely, get as close as you can to the gravel on the exit. He is going very nicely here, James Child. Personal best across the board. Where will it put James Child? Was P10, only up to P9. But that was a significant improvement. 4/10 almost quicker. And sees him in P9.
I think he'll be slightly disappointed, to be honest, because he was 2/10 down in the final sector as James Child. So that would have put him right up towards John Mccutchenson, which would have been an absolutely fantastic time for him. However, we do have the grid now, so as the cars start to spawn in, we'll read you it out. Paul Crabb on pole position alongside Simon Edwards, obviously our pretty much champion-elect. Mike Busson in third place with Graham Brown. All four of those drivers incredibly close time-wise. Martin Booker in fifth, and John Mccutchenson, for the first time I think ever I've seen, outside the top three. He's even outside the top five in qualifying. Jamie Bird in seventh, Paul Clark in eighth, James Child in ninth with Richard Brown in the top 10. Dave Kirkman and Martina Ward are in 11th and 12th. A little bit further back is 13th, Michael LeMay, Ray Peasley in 14th, Jamie Thomas 15th, Phil Jocelyn in 16th, Tim Addock 17th, Phil Glover in 18th, and Dominic Lang-Webb not setting a lap time in that entire qualifying. Very strange, to be honest. Ed, normally we see Dominic Lang-Webb fighting quite strong towards the front end of the field, but I suppose a recovery drive is always slightly more entertaining to watch as well.
Yeah, this is very entertaining. You can see the cars on the grid now. The lights are coming on. We're about to go racing here. The drivers rev their engines in anticipation of the lights going out, and we are going racing here at Okayama. Great start. Slow start, though, for Simon Edwards. You can see him dropping through the field. Got too much wheel spin and losing out on 4 places, maybe even more. Is he able to fend off? Yes, he does fend off Graham Brown, but that was very close to Simon Edwards losing so many places. A bad start from Simon then means Paul Crabb has a bit of breathing room coming into first sector. And all of a sudden, Simon Edwards, after a brilliant qualifying, has a lot of work to do, but we know how quick he is. It's going to be wonderful to see him try and charge back up through the field.
Yeah, it will be indeed. But to be honest, Ed, my windows have just started going a bit dodgy on my computer, so why don't you take over for the second?
Okay, let's have a look now into sector 2 and then down through into sector 3. Simon Edwards chasing, harrying the back of John Mccutchenson. And further in front, Mike Busson looked for a little bit to be under pressure, but actually now with a brilliant exit is able to look down the inside. Just a look on Paul Crabb, nothing more, nothing less, of course. On these opening laps, tyres still not in their best window to properly send moves on your competitors. Paul Crabb, though, his car seems set up so well to accelerate out of the slow speed corners. Gets a nice little bit of room to work with coming through the final couple of bends and onto the back straight. Look at how close everyone is together, though. A little look up ahead, you could just see, I think that was John Mccutchenson actually looking slightly up the inside of Martin Booker. Nothing really going on there, though, in terms of an overtake. And Paul Crabb is going to hope that these 4 in behind start to battle, start to squabble, and he can break rank and break the toe with the rest.
Yeah, it looks like Martin Booker's got a little bit wide there through T4, I believe it is. The sharp hairpin up the hill, probably the most important corner on the entire circuit, and John Mccutchenson knows that full well as he tries to sort of delve into the slipstream to get a little bit of a run on Martin Booker. We can see him up the inside here now, and as you mentioned in qualifying, Ed, a fantastic overtaking opportunity, isn't it, really? Probably the most obvious one on the circuit, to be honest, as it's such a deep dive into a braking zone, unlike T1, which is you can send a lot of speed through there, can't you? Whereas that one at the end, up the hill, sharp hairpin, always a good place to see some fantastic overtakes. Dominic Lang-Webb, then he's moved up from last place into 12th position so far, doing a pretty sterling job, it has to be said. So maybe it was all part of the plan. Maybe he wanted to avoid some potential early doors damage, not on his doors obviously, because radicals don't have doors, but you get what I mean. And he wanted to try and get through as cleanly as possible, but he's doing exactly that as Richard Brown runs a little bit wide. Dominic almost within the top 10 now. He's slotted himself into 11th place, up the inside, job done, and dusted into T1.
Got the cars now make their way down through the S's and into hairpin. Mike Busson, John Mccutchenson, Will John has not seemed to get the car lined up in qualifying, but in the race he is absolutely going for it. Can he make the move into the hairpin? He's hooked right up behind. He's going to look to the inside now. Not defended by Mike. Hard on the brakes though, trying to fend him off around the outside. Isn't able to do it. So all of a sudden John Mccutchenson up another place, up in the second, and can now try, if he can at least, to bring back the deficit to Paul Crabb and go for the lead of the race. Meanwhile, Simon Edwards has not been able to progress through the field as he was hoping following his rocky start, but he's already seen John Mccutchenson get moves being made. Maybe it's time for him to try and take a leaf out of his book.
Yeah, well, he needs to sort something out, doesn't he? Because he's got decent pace. We've seen that in qualifying and in practice. Maybe not as quick as Paul Crabb, but damn near it. Anyway, not as far off it, but Paul Crabb is absolutely checked out. He's got a 1.8 second gap between himself and the next couple of drivers as we switch to Mike Busson as he attacks, he's being attacked by Martin Booker. So this fight for top 3 is really heating up, and I am absolutely amazed that John Mccutchenson has managed to go from 6th into 2nd place so quickly in this race. I was expecting him to be a hard racer. I was expecting it to be, close towards maybe the midway through the session, but I wasn't expecting him to go that quickly up through it. And to be honest, I think the likes of Busson, Booker and Edwards will be slightly disappointed in themselves that they couldn't convert their clear pace advantage into race position, track position advantage for longer.
Yeah, it is all about obviously trying to retain the track position, trying to work on it, but Paul Crabb, what a last lap that was. He's already extending his margins with John Mccutchenson by the tune of about 2 seconds. Excellent stuff. The man who put it on pole, but can he continue this turn of pace, or are his tyres going to drop off towards the end of the race? Only 4 laps in the books. He's got to be careful that he doesn't overwork the car, because we have seen at various rounds of this championship, tyres do come into the equation.
Martina Ward has gone skipping in the air for some reason, and we'll see if we can figure why out that right now. Not really running wide at all through the sort of downhill double left-hander, but going into the hairpin, a little bit of an over-rotation. Unfortunately, I think I can see what's coming here. Radicals are basically shaped like a doorstop at a ramp. That's exactly what happened. Martina gets corrected the right way, but unfortunately it was Jamie Thomas who ended up making contact with her.
So, back to live pictures. Mike Busson up in 3rd and losing touch slightly to John Mccutchenson himself, has not been able to close the gap down to Paul Crabb, who again is just setting the timing of screens alight. Fastest lap last time, under the 22s on a full tank of fuel, 21.99. John Mccutchenson is, I think, glad to be out of this fight, because it's looking very, very close between Mike Busson and Martin Booker. Booker really trying to go for it, as we see Dominic Lang-Webb now down on the inside of Dave Kirkman as he got the move to stick. He's going to white wheel to wheel still. You can see them trying to squeeze one another, playing it a bit cagey as they turn into the corner. Both of them fight for the apex. Dominic Lang-Webb had the inside line, had the advantage, and took that place. Unfortunately, Dave Kirkman, I think, just turned in on the side of Dominic Lang-Webb there, and he's got hefty damage. Looks like suspension as well. That car is crabbing.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic Lang-Webb, he had his car fully alongside him into the inside, and to be fair to Dominic, I think he even went to turn the corner as well, but as you mentioned, I think Kirkman maybe moved over
Look,
just a touch
when he comes out the corner, there's a bit of steering angle damage. If you see that there, the car doesn't look too happy. You're going to see it when it comes onto the straight now, but for me, that looked like the rear end of the car was hit enough out of whack to be a little bit unstable. Now, it seems to be fine in a straight line, but it looked definitely, as he was rising over the crest, to be a little bit unsettled.
Yeah, as Mike Busson and Martin Booker and Simon Edwards are all going to try maybe a lunge on each other. It looks like Booker on the inside has got a good run on Busson as they dive into the braking zone. We've seen John Mccutchenson use this trick to his advantage plenty of times. Booker gets a little squirrel on the exit, which might allow Edwards to even get involved, but Busson gets through. Booker in 4th still, and 5th is Simon Edwards.
Simon Edwards can go trying to fight his way up the order, but he just can't do it at the moment. What was John Mccutchenson able to do that Simon couldn't? Is it just about getting the power down at the slow speeds onto the straights, which are real overtaking zones, that maybe isn't working in Simon Edwards' favour? He's got a corner now, a chance to maybe go for it. As there's a little mistake from Martin Booker. Is this going to open the door wide for Simon Edwards, who looks to the outside? Is he going to dart to the inside? No, he doesn't. Simon Edwards staying in behind, not able to properly attack the back end of Martin Booker.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a slightly risky place, wasn't it, in T1? If you haven't got the car fully alongside the other driver, you don't really want to be sending too much and sort of, I suppose, ambitious moves through there. He's probably going to wait and try and line up exactly what John Mccutchenson did earlier, and exactly what Busson did to Booker earlier on as well, and try and maybe lunge him into this corner. The problem with these radicals is they don't seem to get affected by slipstream as much as maybe some other cars like MX-5s or other sort of big bricks like maybe TCR cars as well. So they don't seem to be able to take advantage of that real straight line speed going into that corner, which around Okayama we see a lot of MX-5 racing, don't we, Ed? And we see a lot of slipstream lunges.
Simon Edwards there. He's looking for it. There's a little mistake again coming from Martin Booker, who's really, I think, feeling the pressure from Simon Edwards, if nothing else.
There's an opportunity coming, there must be.
There has to be, yeah. You can see it in the wind that Simon Edwards is definitely quicker, definitely making fewer mistakes, but then it's a wonderful exit from Martin Booker. Gets his head back in the game, going across the line. So what can Simon Edwards manage? Has the widest time a little bit more through turn 1. Focus on getting the good run now through the next corner, because it lines you up beautifully for a run potentially down the inside into the hairpin, but it doesn't seem to work out. Martin Booker, we thought for a moment he was making a few mistakes, but I think he's gotten past the wobbles and the jitters and is back up to the pace that he showed in qualifying. James Child then up behind Graham Brown. Another close fight potentially arriving on the scene, as Martin Booker closes the gap down up ahead. You can see how close they are, but not enough to properly make a move.
Yeah, again, that slipstream, it's only good enough for maybe half a tenth, maybe a tenth, realistically. I mean, I'm trying to have a see if I can see that top speed. I haven't got it up on my my timing tower at the moment, but we have had a few drivers having a bit of a crash, unfortunately. Jamie Thomas has had another off. It looks like his car, this may well be an all-on-your-own sort of job with a damaged car, which would be slightly understandable. I think actually he's just maybe going to pull over. Yeah, he's just pulling over, isn't he? Dominic Lang-Webb with an incident. I do see him actually quite far down the order now, so something big has happened to Dominic Lang-Webb. I think sure that's one of the Browns just behind him, and although I could be wrong, I don't want to place too much blame, but that is the number 3. Is it the number 3 or is it 13? It's not Graham Brown, is it? It's Richard Brown. So I was right, it's one of the Browns. But it was Richard Brown, unfortunately, involved in that incident. So Dominic Lang-Webb, although such a good recovery drive, unfortunately sees it scuppered somewhat. We'll just see a replay of it here. It's just outbraking himself as Richard Brown, or is Dominic Lang-Webb maybe slowing up too much? I don't think you can really blame Dominic, so maybe it's a racing incident. That's about as good, as lenient as I can give to Richard Brown there.
Yeah, unfortunate incident. I'm not sure if there are any stewards or what they'll make of it. You can see Simon Edwards now driving a little bit more aggressively, looking down the inside. Backs out of it, however. Martin Booker, feeling the pressure, he's dropped back a little bit more from Mike Buston. So it's getting very, very exciting now. If Martin Booker drops any further back, that means that he doesn't get as much toe, and Simon Edwards will be that much closer now into the braking zone. So it's imperative for Martin Booker to get a good run, but he makes a mistake, too eager on the throttle, but all of a sudden Simon Edwards, we could see that that mistake was potentially coming through from his pressure, and it certainly has now. And it's unfortunate for Martin Booker because he was doing a very good job of defending up until that point.
He was doing an absolutely fantastic job, and that is a real shame because if we're looking at Martin Booker, then I just want to have a quick look. He's 4th place in the championship, tied on points at the moment with Dominic Lang-Webb, who we did just see before. Obviously had that slight upset, but crucially, John Mccutchenson is actually probably the driver that's going to overtake both of them into 4th position in the championship after this one. Obviously, there are drop rounds to take into consideration. But still, not going to be what Martin Booker wanted after performing so strongly here. Paul Crabb has extended his margin even more so. We were talking about 2 seconds earlier on. It's now 3.4. John Mccutchenson has pulled away from Mike Busson by 2.4 as well. So very interesting to see Paul Crabb's real turn of pace here as Martin Booker looks up the inside of Jamie Bird. It's not going to happen this time, although Jamie will be pretty safe in the knowledge that Martin Booker is attacking. He's not going to be silly about this, hopefully.
Yeah, he's going to have to be sensible, going to have to be smart with how he approaches this. Putting back down through the order. Definitely has the pace, though, quicker than Jamie Bird at this present moment in time. What damage loaded that little bit of a slide due to his tyres, of course, past the halfway stage of this race. Mike Busson, Simon Edwards, all together, no slipstream assistance for Mike Busson. He's going to have to defend through a very hard charging Simon Edwards, who's coming back after a very disappointing start. Wasn't able to get off the line in the way he had. Absolute shed loads of wheel spin. As there's been a moment here, Richard Brown has dropped back, as I think David Kirkman, the two of them coming together. You can see there's a little bit more damage on the back end of Dave Kirkman's car. So let's have a look just into the final corner. And I think that was a very ambitious look to the inside through the final corner, which isn't really where you see moves being made.
No, and unfortunately it's Richard Brown again, which doesn't shine too nicely on him, does it? After we saw him in the replay with Dominic Lang-Webb earlier on, but we'll shine past that. As I said, it's a case for the stewards to decide on. Ray Peasley and Phil Jocelyn for 10th place at the moment. Looks like a little look at the inside there by Phil, but on Ray, he's not biting just yet. He's confident in taking his racing line, doesn't need to worry about being lunged at all at the moment. But I would say all in all, Ed, driving standards have not been too bad. I mean, there have been one or two ambitious and maybe slightly questionable lunges, but all in all, we got through the first couple of laps pretty unscathed, and the rest of the racing has been very, very entertaining without getting silly.
So let's see Jamie Bird then under pressure now from Martin Booker. And they come through turn 1 and 2, nose to tail, along with, of course, the other car in the background, Graham Brown, who's ready to pick up the pieces should there be any more incidents that we've already seen in this race before these two battling. Hopefully it won't come to this. It's good run out of the corner as we come to a replay for Ray Peasley. Wheel onto the gravel on the exit, keeps it just out over the wall on the exit, but loses the touch, loses the position to Phil Jocelyn, who, as we come back to Jamie Bird, he was almost overtaken by Martin Booker, but did a great job just to cover off the inside. Very late, but still, Martin Booker, I don't think, was fully committing to a move down the inside.
No, Jamie is fairly confident in his racing lines at the moment, isn't he? He's doing a good job of holding off the other drivers and just being sort of confidently on his own line without worrying too much about what the rest of the field are doing, which is exactly what you need to do when you're a defending driver, realistically, in my opinion. There's only maybe, on any racetrack, apart from a fair few exceptions to be fair, but there's realistically only ever 2 or 3 nailed on places where moves can be done pretty much from any direction. You need to be defending to them, and apart from that, if it's a 50-50, you can be pretty confident in taking your normal racing line and not having to hamper yourself basically by defending on corners you don't need to, because you're just going to slow yourself up and leave yourself vulnerable going into latter corners. And we focus on this battle at the front, but actually Martin Booker's been overtaken by Graham Brown. So Martin Booker's night goes from bad to worse as James Child has had an off. Maybe just have a quick look at that in a couple of seconds. But yeah, that is he's just slipping at the moment, Martin Booker. It's not going the way he wanted. As Simon Edwards and Mike Busson keep fighting. Simon Edwards now into the podium places. Only just. We'll have a look at how he did it. It's the classic run down into this hairpin, isn't it? But to be fair, instead of going on the inside, Simon Edwards decides he's going all the way around the outside of Mike Busson, and that's one of the corners I mentioned where you are pretty much vulnerable from the inside and the outside. Mike Busson did everything he could. Maybe didn't run as much speed as he should have gone through, but he ran a clean race, which is important because 4th place is better than 14th.
Yeah, we've seen this happen a few times before, haven't we, Jacko, in terms of coming into that corner in our BSR days, back for the Masters. Oh, plenty of moves being made around the outside or down the inside there, and seems to be just the same case in the Radicals here. Great move from Simon Edwards, back up into P3, just one position down from where he qualified, which, considering the start he had to this race, isn't too bad going. But then further back, we've got a close fight, these two again. Hopefully there's no contact being made. A lot of damage though to the rear end of Dave Cutman's car isn't helping him into turn 1. Thankfully there isn't any contact. Is he vulnerable though off of the corner into turn 2? No, he's able to hold on.
He is indeed, but is Jamie Bird? That's the question that everybody at the top 5 will be asking, because Graham Brown is interested in taking that position away from him. He's already had Martin Booker in the last couple of laps. He's planning on taking top 4 away from Jamie Bird as well. Graham Brown racing very hard up, down 2 positions, but Jamie Bird's actually up 2 positions. So quite a lot of changing at this front end of the field. Very impressive by all of them. Phil Jocelyn and Phil Glover, actually the 2 drivers, they've actually gained the most amount of positions for both the Phils. So fair play to those 2. They both gained 6 places off the start. The next best is John Mccutchenson, currently running in 2nd position. So fairly impressive from all drivers all the way up and down the field. You can see actually the stats on your left-hand side there. Richard Brown is probably the driver who'll be most disappointed, apart from Jamie Thomas and Martina Ward, of course, who are both out of this race, and Dominic Lang-Webb, who's gained 2 positions, but is still in the pit lane. And that's only because he started from last.
Jamie Bird under pressure from Graham Brown. Is Martin Booker.
It's a bit worrying that, Martin Booker, isn't it? Lagging in and out.
Yeah, lagging in and out. Not great at all seeing him blink in and out once more. Oh dear, oh dear. Maybe that's probably playing into where he is now after getting up the order. Has lost out 1 position and can't really go any further back considering the gap he has to Paul Clark. But at this late stage of the race, he'd be hoping to go forward rather than backwards ahead of Graham Brown and Jamie Bird. But Graham Brown seems to have a good exit as Ray Peasley goes for a move through the corner, and James Child is off the circuit.
James Child is off the circuit for the 2nd time in a number of laps. This is what happened to him the first time. Is it going to be an over-rotation? Is he going to go for a lunge? It's a long way back to go for a lunge, and I think just sent too much speed through the corner. This is what happened to him a little later, the one we've literally just seen, I believe. So as he's going towards the braking zone, we actually see a couple of cars, which I think is Ray Peasley and Phil Jocelyn that we saw. There we go, James Child turns around and then does well to hold on to the brakes and not actually turn into these drivers. But still, not the way he was hoping that this race would probably end. For Crabb, however, Ed is one driver who'll be very pleased with how this race is ending, isn't it? 5.5 seconds the good of John Mccutchenson, something he could only probably dream of happening at the beginning of the season.
Graham Brown then. I'm just thinking really about Martin Booker. It's been such a disappointing race really from him. He started off so well, was fighting up in the podium places, fighting for the podium places as well, and then all of a sudden, whoa, that was a close moment there. Jimmy Bird, did he get a massive slide on just coming out of that corner? Nearly lost the car. Graham Brown really piling the pressure on now as we approach the final few laps of this race. Graham Brown. Oh, and Martin Booker nearly going into the back of Graham Brown. That was close stuff. Won't be wanting any more of that as coming out of the corner. Graham Brown nearly gets into the back of Jamie Bird. These three are all racing so close together. Thin margins of error as coming through the corner. A little bit wide of the apex goes Graham Brown. So is Martin Booker going to fancy a run into turn one? He's going to have to come for a long way back if he goes for it. Looks to the inside, backs out of it.
In fact, Graham Brown went really deep into that T1, didn't he? It's so deep, in fact, that he's actually lost it on the exit a touch and has invited Martin Booker to have another go at him. We thought maybe he nailed it when he was trying to chase Jamie Bird, but not the case at the moment. Graham Brown feeling a little bit susceptible to Martin Booker here, I would feel. He's going to have to figure out what he wants to do here. Is he going to attack? Is he going to defend? Is he going to hold on to what he's got and try and take it home? We're on the penultimate lap of the race. He's going to have to figure it out rather soon. But as we are on the penultimate lap of the race, Ed, we can pretty much have a look at how the top four are going to be, top three are going to be finishing, can't we? Paul Crabb, John and Simon Edwards have absolutely dominated this race, particularly Paul Crabb. John Mccutchenson done well though, and Simon Edwards late surged back to third place, but since he's got past Mike Busson, he has checked out somewhat.
Yeah, based on qualifying, we thought it could have been maybe closer than it ended up being, but I'll tell you what, Paul Crabb, there must be something about this Okayama circuit that he has absolutely gelled with. Fastest lap of the race, fastest driver on the circuit by some margin as well. His best lap time 0.2 faster than his nearest competitor, Simon Edwards, for fastest lap. As John Mccutchenson has only really mastered a 22.1. Paul Crabb doing a 21.7. And again, Paul Crabb having a look at recent lap times, even without any tow, with nothing helping him out, he's 0.2 faster than pretty much every other driver. This is brilliant stuff. As speaking of brilliant, Graham Brown really piling the pressure on Jamie. This is brilliant. Brilliant in terms of the battle for 5th place.
Yeah, I mean, 21.7, just to get back to that lap time you read out before, Ed, that is a 1/10.5 quicker than we saw in qualifying. So that's the sort of standards that Paul Crabb has been laying down, and no one's really been able to come up with an answer for him. We will see him go across the line, but right now I just want to have a look and see if Ray Peasley can hold off Phil Jocelyn as Jocelyn goes to the outside for a late move, and I think Ray has gone too defensive there. Far too narrow, and if Phil can't get this one, I think that was James Child having spin in the background, he'll be disappointed. And in fact, Phil doesn't actually nail it, does he? He's making, I wouldn't say a meal of it, but he's making it harder than it needs to be, probably, as Paul Crabb does cross the line in first place. Apologies for Paul Crabb, not seeing him across the line. It was an absolutely stellar effort from him. We haven't seen him all race, and we didn't even get to see him across the line. I do apologise, Paul, but you have driven absolutely wonderfully today. You really have. There's a reason. Sometimes it's a good thing, Ed, when you're leading a race and you don't get seen on the broadcast at all. It's because it's probably been fairly easy for you.
Yeah, definitely. And that was a great little move between Phil Jocelyn and Ray Peasley. Phil getting the advantage. That was a close, late fight. I bet they're both very chuffed with that. We're going to see a replay of how the move was completed. Phil Jocelyn down the inside. A little bit of door banging, but I don't think that was anything different than what we saw into the first corner where they went side by side, because there was also a little bit of contact between Ray Peasley and Phil Jocelyn there. Great move, though, by Phil. As we now have confirmation of the finishing order, Jack.
Yeah, and Paul Crabb confirmed as your race winner. And as I said, apologies that we didn't see him across the line, but it was an absolutely brilliant effort from him. Can't wait to see it next week at the Nordschleife if he's got that kind of pace in his bonnet. John Mccutchenson, not used to not winning, to be honest, but he'll be pretty pleased with coming back after a lengthy absence and coming in second place. Simon Edwards, our effective champion-elect, is in third with Mike Busson. Falling down the order slightly, but we'll still be pretty pleased to finish inside the top four. Jamie Bird will be delighted to finish in the top 5 with Graham Brown in 6th, Martin Booker in 7th. A brilliant second half of the race between those 3 drivers as well, from Bird, Brown and Booker. Paul Clark, Phil Jocelyn and Ray Peasley round out your top 10 with Phil Glover, Dave Kirkman in 11th and 12th, with James Child in 13th after a late spin and Richard Brown after a fair old few collisions, ended up 14th. Tim Haddock in 15th, with 16th being Michael LeMay. Dominic Lang-Webb ends up in the pit lane and 9 laps down. Real shame for him. And Jamie Thomas ends up 13 laps down in 18th place. So a fair few incidents, unfortunately, sort of with a few drivers. But the star of the show, really, was Paul Crabb, and we're very much hoping that he comes in and joins us, Ed, aren't we? Because we'd love to have a quick chat with any of our podium sitters, really. We do try and make a point of getting the podium in. Simon Edwards always comes in for a chat if he can, with John Mccutchenson as well. But we'd obviously like to hear from our race winner as well. But you've been away for a couple of weeks, Ed, and to be fair, I have as well, apart from last week. I mean, it's a hell of a way to come back, isn't it? A brilliant race here around Okayama. It sets up the Nordschleife quite nicely, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely does. What a great fight that was, though. That last lap battle between Phil Josselin and Ray Peasley was a delight to watch, wasn't it, Jack? Right at the end of the race, some extra late drama to just really excite us before the season finale. I think that's got to be the real key word. Is excitement is the main feeling in the comms box. We do have a driver, though, coming in to the comms box, Jack, and I think you can have a word with Phil Glover.
Oh, actually, I'll tell you what,
Well,
Ed, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our race winner, who's literally just joined in as we've been talking about that, and it is Paul Crabb. Paul, we didn't see you across the line. We didn't see you that much at all, to be honest, but that's because it seemed fairly easy for you out there. Congratulations on the race victory.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a long time coming.
I was going to say, it's you've done fairly convincing, though, wasn't it? I mean, did you expect to have that kind of pace here at Okayama, or was that a bit of a surprise when you got into qualifying?
No, I'm for some reason I'm dialed into Okayama, and I have been for a couple of years, and I was expecting to do well here. I just seemed to be able to string the laps together. So yeah, I was hoping to be in the top 3, but a win was nice.
I was going to say, whenever I've gone to a track and I've been fairly confident of a good result, it always ends up being a DNF or something. So well done to you for riding that pressure, because sometimes that is the biggest thing, isn't it? It's not the pressure from elsewhere, it's the pressure you put on yourself when you know you've got the speed and you know you could have a good result, and if all things go your way, a race victory.
Yeah, I was being relatively tentative on the opening few laps, and then I saw John coming through to second, and I thought I'd better hurry up a bit, because if he got on my tail, I think it would have been a different story, because I probably would have been scared off the track at some point. not by John's bad driving, just by my nervousness.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, to be fair there, Phil. Paul, even it's happened to me a fair few times. Speaking of your other competitors, and obviously John coming through, because he came from 6th. In qualifying, there was only about 0.2 of a second between you and the rest of the top 4. I mean, you were a good 1/10 and a half of that. The rest of them were separated by about 0.5 of a second, which is ludicrous. But were you expecting a little bit more of a battle through that race, or did you sort of expect them to start tripping over each other and hope that you could get through?
Well, it all went my way when Simon sat there spinning his wheels on the start line.
True.
Because he was the one who would almost certainly stayed with me, I would have thought, for the race, and and who knows what the pressure would do after that. So I was fortunate in that respect. So I built up a bit of a gap after 2 or 3 laps. So no one was in my draft. Although the draft here was almost useless.
It was, yeah. It was about 0.5 we measured in it. Obviously, you wouldn't have experienced much of that at all. But when we were watching the likes of Simon Edwards chase after the likes of Mike Busson, it took him 5 or 6 laps to try and get past, because the slipstream's just pretty much nil, wasn't it? Which I suppose you could argue works in your advantage, because it meant that nobody had an unfair advantage and you had clear air to get gone.
That's right. They couldn't sort of work together to catch up, and in some respects, the slipstream's it's almost gone the wrong way. We need a touch more, because you would expect to, if you come out behind someone, you'd expect to sort of get a wheel alongside at the end of a straight, but it's really tricky.
Do you race radicals in real life, Paul?
No.
I was curious to know what if there is anybody in here who races radicals, which there may well be, to see how realistic the slipstream or the car does feel compared to its real life counterpart. That was all I was going to ask. But anyway, A big congratulations to you, Paul. Fantastic race victory. Really very dominant as well. Very quickly before you go, last question before we let you go, any shout-outs you want to. Nordschleife next week. How's that one sitting?
Oh, I love the Nordschleife.
We'll
I'm
expect to see you on the podium again then.
maybe, but God, it's such a hard track to survive.
It is very difficult, yeah. But if you got confidence in that, then you got confidence in any track, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've done a zillion laps around it, so I should be okay.
Good stuff. Can't wait to see it. Paul, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Well, only my wife, who came in the middle of the race and said, "Are you still racing?" and gave me the fright of my life because I'm in VR.
Big shout out to Paul's wife then. Very well done to her. No, that was brilliant. Well done, Paul, and we'll speak to you next time.
Okay, thanks, gents.
And that was Paul Crabb, and just moving him out of the race control there. And I think we've got Simon Edwards, Ed, if you want to have a very quick chat with him. It doesn't look like we've got John Mccutchenson in the interview waiting room, so why don't we just have a quick chat with Simon?
Yeah, let's have a quick word with Simon. And Simon, that was a very dramatic race from you. Obviously, you qualified on the front row, but then with a mistake off the line, you had a lot of work to do. But mate, congratulations on getting back up into P3 there.
Yeah, I actually made this track I don't like interesting. I just sat there on the grid, wheel spinning like a nutter. But luckily I didn't loop it. I managed to just feed it in and get going again. But they were just flying past me. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously at that point we saw in the first few moments you were struggling to get through. But then what happened? Was it just you were looking after your tyres and had the advantage, or what allowed your sudden turn of pace in those sort of that last half of the race?
Yeah, I think I was just looking after the tyres, and I put a tiny bit of understeer in the car, which ended up with quite a lot of understeer in the first few laps. But as you go through this race, you're wearing your rears, so it became more and more balanced for me.
Definitely, and obviously with that third place, it looks good for you in the championship as well, Simon.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm just I'm not even looking at it. I'll look at it next week.
Look at it next week, hopefully before the final round at the Nordschleife, which of course is, I think, slightly longer than what we're used to, isn't it? 3 laps of a very long circuit. Do you know if that's going to maybe change the setup in terms of sort of tyre life and fuel?
Normally it's 5 laps in this car. It's 3 laps in the skip barber. I haven't checked it though. So if it's 3 laps, it's not going to be. Oh no, 3 laps might be. I don't know. Might be 4. I don't know. I quite like it though. So it'll be one of those tracks that I will practice for. I didn't really practice too much for this track.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully you'll be able to practice a little bit more for the Nordschleife, and we'll see you out there next week, bud.
Thank you, and congratulations to Paul for his first win in a while as well.
Thank you very much, Simon. And with that, Jack, Simon exits the comms box. Do we have time for you to have a chat with another driver, or is that sadly it?
I think we're going to probably end up signing off Yeah, we're about 8 minutes over actually in the end, Ed. So we're probably going to be about signing off now, unfortunately. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you back with us. I hope you've enjoyed the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series, as I'm hoping everybody else at home did as well, because it's been it's been very entertaining from our perspective as well, hasn't it? It's been a right pleasure to have you all along with us. And I suppose if you're interested in watching the finale, well, they should probably give a quick subscribe, shouldn't they, Ed? Because there's more action on Absolute Sim Racing that they could be getting involved in, and including obviously the BSR on a Tuesday, which is slightly different. It's MX5 racing.
Yeah, definitely. The BSR MX5 Tuesday series is definitely my baby. I've been covering broadcasts on that series for the past, I think, 4 seasons now. My very first commentary gig was actually for the BSR Mazdas, and they're into their season finale for the final race of this season. So, of course, you want to stay tuned with that. Each of the 3 championships, Pro, Pro-Am, and Am, all hang in the balance and will probably be settled on the final race. So you've got all of that to look forward to. 4 15-minute races with reverse grids if you need any more enticement about the exciting action that will happen at the Hungaroring. But yeah, Jack, we've also got to look forward to next week, where all of the cars, all of the radicals will be on circuit for the season finale at the Nordschleife, which I can't wait for. And I'm sure everybody else is very excited to see as well. So, Jack, I've been Ed Mate. You've been, of course, Jack Oliphant, joining me in the Courage Box. And everyone watching, we hope you've enjoyed the show. But importantly, all that's left to say is goodbye, take care, and stay safe.